Now we're going to change gears for a second. Never had Israel either. And do let me know how the audio is sounding. So I'm hoping that this is going to be content. And I don't want the audio to be fucked up, because then I'll have to just screw around with it in post for hours like I did with the Tuttle Twins thing.
If you are one of the many people getting interested in socialism and world politics these days, you've probably heard of Caleb Maupin.
Like, really? The only reason I've heard of him is that people take the piss out of him. I mean, this guy, the ego on him is fairly impressive. And I mean, just creating this fucking animated intro.
So, who is Caleb Maupin?
You really want me to answer that?
A journalist, political analyst, TV personality.
No, he's just an asshole.
Caleb is a 21st century socialist and advocate.
Okay, so we've narrowed down what time period he's living in.
International friendship and cooperation. He first rose to prominence through socialist organizing in Cleveland, Ohio.
To prominence? Jesus Christ! He was in what is it? Cleveland Fist, which sounds a lot more fun than it is.
In 2010, Caleb attended a student walkout, protesting teacher layoffs, and filmed.
God, who gives a shit about you went to a protest hardly anyone remembers in 2010?
Police brutality against two
what's correct on all this, though, is that the animated version of him has the fucking smug grin as he's doing this. Like, yeah, ticking the boxes, gonna put this on my activist CV. Eventually I'm gonna be able to do a grift just like that fine chap Micah White.
African-American high school students. The introduction of his video footage as evidence in juvenile court resulted in a verdict of not guilty for one of the two young women. Cleveland's Scene magazine describes
it's like the bare minimum.
The 22-year-old is chatty and affable. When it comes to talking politics, he's obviously done his homework. Facts, dates, obscure legislation, the fates of forgotten labor leaders.
Jesus. Like, imagine. I can't wrap my mind around the sort of person who comes up with this and thinks that it makes them look good. And this is an article. I know this because he's like linked to it on his personal website, which describes him as the sage you've always wanted to find. Which no. The sage I always wanted to find was for a salad. I don't think that he has that flavor. No, it's like it was a profile of him because he was involved in some sort of a protest back in like 2008 or something. And this is...
It's a protest songs. In part, he's learned the game as a careful student of history, but he also sees himself as an inheritor of the radical tradition.
Yeah, I think we gotta take that to probate. That is... Oh, shit. Okay.
The introduction of his video
Look at the fucking grins on these people's faces, too. It's like...
as evidence in juvenile court.
He thought this was a good idea.
Not guilty for one of the two young women. Cleveland Scene magazine describes Caleb at the time. The 22-year-old is chatty and affable. When it comes to talking politics, he's obviously done his homework. Facts, dates, obscure legislation, the fates. In 2011, when the Occupy Wall Street movement took root in New York City, Caleb was at the center of the
And
action.
now?
At the first General Assembly, he gave a fiery speech.
God, like, spare me from people who are still talking about how important they were at Occupy. And why?
Built around the phrase and idea of class against class.
And nobody had thought of that before then.
He also urged the Occupy movement to take a stand.
What the? Okay, so these suits are meant to be the Occupy movement, or what are these, like, the corporate CEOs looking on, like, yeah, his grift game is strong.
Against the bombing of Libya, at a time when most leftists weren't even aware of it. After Occupy, Caleb decided...
Weren't even aware of it? That was a huge fucking debate at the time. When it didn't, that wasn't something that was obscure and passed without notice.
It was time to get a haircut and start traveling. Soon he was speaking at important conferences in Iran, Ecuador, Venezuela, Brazil, and Russia.
Yeah, which is cute. I mean, he clearly doesn't want to say what the names of the conferences are. Yes, this is fucking Caleb Maupin. This is his autobiography. This is the introduction that plays every single time you go to his channel.
In 2013, he led the Hands Off Syria protests, demanding the end of American efforts to overthrow the Syrian government. Appearing on CNN,
fucking grinning.
Caleb urged President Obama himself not to launch a new war.
We're supposed to imagine that he went into the Oval Office and, like, brought out a fucking PowerPoint presentation, and, like, a lot of people urged Obama not to start another war. A lot of people. This is not, I mean, this is the bragging rights he thinks
Caleb
it is.
was invited to join with the Red Crescent Society of Iran, delivering medical supplies to war-torn Yemen. The rescue ship created an international incident, and Saudi Arabia bombed the port of Hodeidah 8 times in a single day.
And yet somehow this is all about him.
To keep Caleb and the small group of medical volunteers from arriving.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the bombing was primarily about Caleb Maupin. They didn't want... I mean, he is the fucking keymaster to Yemen's gatekeeper.
Since that time, Caleb's writing has been translated into a number of languages. He's been featured and quoted on China.org, Forbes, The Nation, Democracy Now!, and many other outlets.
Featured and quoted? That doesn't mean anything.
He works as a reporter for the International Television Network, RT.
Well, international in that it's active internationally.
And his work is viewed by millions every day. Caleb never turned
Viewed as what?
down an opportunity to debate in favor of socialism.
Well, mostly he seems to prefer to debate in favor of redefining socialism.
Fascists, or anarchists. Caleb Maupin is a Marxist, anti-racist, and feminist. He opposes all forms of oppression.
Well, I mean, except for the transphobia and the anti-Semitism, and he doesn't think there's anything wrong with the fucking LaRoucheites, which is fun.
But he's also a Christian and a patriotic American. He remains critical of the pessimism and destructiveness found in some leftist circles, and urges the American left to rediscover the traditions of class struggle and anti-imperialism.
This is what these three people are supposed to represent the American left: the dickhead with the bow tie and the two like grinning chuckle fucks.
Caleb's book, City Builders and Vandals in Our Age,
is full of
has
anti-Semitic
been
shit.
described as a groundbreaking analysis of capitalism and geopolitics. He's now in the process of forming a think tank called the Center for Political Innovation.
Yes, and that's taken off so much that at their big like debut, I guess you could call it a protest. A few days ago, they had all of 5 people in New
That
York.
aims to expand the conversation about how the USA can get past the crisis of greed, wars, and market-spawned chaos.
Without doing something like, I don't know, abolishing capitalism, which he says is
The slogan
anti-Marxist.
and message that Caleb wants to popularize is, "We need a government of action to fight for working families."
What the fuck is any of that? What the hell is a government of action as opposed to what? Like a government of inaction? I mean, this guy is so image obsessed, but he thinks this is the language that inspires people. Fight for working families. I mean, that's just like Democratic Party bullshit. And, I mean, what the hell is a government of action? Every fucking government does shit.
If this sounds interesting to you, do yourself a favor.
Desperately, urgently locate actual leftist analysis, because if this motherfucker's starting to sound interesting to you, maybe you just need some sleep. Maybe that's it. Because I mean, if you wanted to make him, this is like the advertising for Caleb Maupin you'd do if his one man show was in The Producers, if he was sort of the springtime for Hitler of the act.
Subscribe to this channel and start engaging with what Caleb Maupin has to say.
Well, I guess I'm doing
He's
that
got
right
a
now.
unique socialist perspective, formed by real-life experiences in the class struggle.
Real life experiences in the class struggle. Yeah, and then when he talks about his real life experiences, it's like, yeah, so spent some time talking with politicians in this one country, yeah. And then I went to another one and I talked to more fucking politicians, and then there was some like fashion there too, talked to them. Yeah, I mean,
Check
what
out his
experience
website,
in the class struggle.
calebmaupin.com, and stay in touch with him on Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, no.
If you are one of the many
No, we don't need more of it.